just load up my stream. Alrighty.
Test.
Groovy. Alright, let me adjust volume on my TV. Alright, let's get into this update. Delayed by a day because 2K wanted to wait for the All-Star starters to be announced. Let's actually just click Embiid and see if that's reflected in the game. No, it is not. Otherwise, he would say All-Star 2022, right? They are still tracking like live stats or whatever, right? Actually, no. All right, maybe that's like a PS5 only thing, or maybe they just stopped doing it for the PS4. Anywho, let's jump into the ratings then. All right, so right off the bat, looks like Embiid went up a point. He has been playing very well of late. Let's hop into his splits real quick. For the month of January, he's averaging 34 points per game, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists. The points and assists are his highs for a month. He shot 54% this month, only 29% from 3, which is easily his low, but it looks like he's been cooking from 2-point range. 42% usage rate. It had been 35% the last 2 months, so he's like playing at a level really that we haven't seen since the days of like Wilt Chamberlain, Shaquille O'Neal. Like there are very select few big men that you could put Embiid in the conversation with right now. So yeah, +1 for him. Well deserved. Probably tied with Jokic for the highest rated center in the game is my guess. And I think 96, as far as I remember, 96 is the highest rating they've given out. Maybe they have somebody at 97. Yeah, I think Giannis was at a 97 last update. So certainly I think that Embiid could be a point below him rather than 2 points below him. Let's look at the rest of the dudes. I don't think anybody else changed. Thibault and Danny Green are both sidelined to the best of my knowledge. Let's see if either one came back. Yeah, Thibault's been back for 2 games, and Green has been back for 1 game. Okay. But he had previously missed the entire update, actually, up until this 1 game that he played, so. Okay. Korkmaz went down a point. He's been shooting kind of poorly this year. George Niang went down 2 points. I guess he got off to a hot start and has kind of been quiet of late. I think no other changes. Wow, only 3 guys changed for the Sixers. Embiid up, but then 2 role players go down. All right, let's go to Milwaukee. Yeah, there's Giannis at the 97. Middleton went up a point. Let's check that out. All right, for the month of January, Middleton's averaging 23, 7, and 6. 23 points is his high. Well, basically all of those marks are his high for the month, so he finally got back up to speed. He shot 49% from the field, 46% from 3, and 91% from the free throw line in January. 64 true shooting. Previous month, 42% from the field. Month before that, 41% from the field. So more or less back to normal. Took him a couple months to get going, but that's good for Milwaukee as they start to make a push towards the playoffs. Divincenzo finally went down 2 points, it looks like. which I've been calling for a while because he's got a higher rating than
They
Grayson
just
Allen's.
changed it today.
Yep. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but yeah, the roster update is today. Grayson Allen is the starter, but he's got a lower rating than Dante Divincenzo. Divincenzo hasn't shot the ball very well at all this year. In 11 games, he's shooting only 28% from the field. Still finding his footing coming back from injury. But certainly, I don't know if, like, 77 is probably fine for DiVincenzo. It's just like you shouldn't have Grayson Allen this low, so that he won't start over him when you start a season. The rest of the team, I'm not expecting anybody on the bench to be going up, really. They're all kind of middling options that they got. Milwaukee doesn't have a ton of depth this year. Yeah, I think actually no other changes for anybody else on the bench. So only 2 rating updates for the Bucks this week. Okay, looking like a light update because 3 edit changes for the Sixers is their low for the year, and now 2 for Milwaukee is their low. Milwaukee previously had 12 rating changes in the last update, so only 2 this time. So I guess 2K feels that like they have them pretty well established right now. Let's go to Chicago. DeRozan's only at 90. DeRozan named an all-star starter. Just want to check. Yep, it did not update. And speaking of not updating, did anybody change here? Ayo DeSumo goes up a point. He's been playing great. He's basically the starting point guard, actually. And that's his natural position. He's really a jack of all trades. He's been backing up DeMar DeRozan for much of the year, but now with all the injuries that they've dealt with, he's back to starting at his natural point guard. If anything, I'd actually have shooting guard as like his 3rd position. He doesn't spend a ton of time backing up Zach LaVine. Now that Kobe White is back from injury, he doesn't really spend much of time at the 2 at all. So yeah, I would definitely change DeSumo's position, especially while Ball and Caruso are injured. And he's been playing really well. I don't think a 75 really captures just how good he's been. He's one of the better defenders on the team, and he's just ridiculously efficient from the field. Even with the small sample, he's shooting 54% from the field, 43% from 3. So his shot selection is very, very high quality for a player, even though he's only got a 14 usage rate. And I expect his playmaking numbers are going to continue to rise throughout the year. Obviously, DeRozan does and LaVine are going to do a fair amount of playmaking. Ayo is more like, I guess, being utilized as like an Avery Bradley type of point guard, or Derek Fisher, etc., where like he's the point of attack defender, but offensively the other guys are going to have a more traditional playmaking role. He's really just like a corner shooter. But yeah, 75. Matt Thomas went up 2 points. Let's check that out. I guess he finally got his most meaningful minutes of the year. Yeah, Thomas barely played before Christmas, and then since Christmas, he's played all but 2 games. Most of this is obviously due to injuries. He's shooting 47% from the field over the last month, 48% from 3. So that's basically what he was known for, and I guess the fact that he's getting minutes right now justifies his rating going up. Green returned to the lineup. Tyler Cook goes up in rating 2. Okay. Looks like as the Bulls bench has, thinned out with all the injuries, Opportunities have gone to some of the lesser knowns. Tyler Cook, there isn't really much to write home about with his production. Over the last 4 games, he's averaged 18 minutes per game, including 2 starts. He's averaged 3.5 points per game, 60% from the field, 6 rebounds. And that's pretty much all he did for this update. So I'm not really seeing where the the +2 rating is fine because he's playing, but it's not really like reflected from like his play or anything. I guess on the year, he was probably underrated to begin with. Like on the year, he's got a 13.6 PER, 67 true shooting. For his career, he's basically 67 true shooting and 13.5 PER. So yeah, I think this is kind of like just a cleaning up of their ratings more so than like a reflection of his play in the last like week or anything. He's just been at that level to begin with. Troy Brown Jr., dumb underrated. If you're going to make the argument that like Matt Thomas and Tyler Cook are going up in rating because they're getting playing time, like what are we doing with Troy Brown Jr., who's played 36 games this year, 17 minutes, 42% from the field, 34% from 3, which is both those marks are... Well, actually, his 3-point percentage is slightly up from last year's. Field goal percentage is a 1 point lower, but like he's basically the 7th man on this team, and he's certainly a more established player than either of these two guys. So the fact that he didn't have a rating change is kind of curious. I don't really know what they're doing there. Alfonso Mckinney went down somehow. Again, if you're going to make the argument that like Tyler Cook is going up, what are we doing with McKinney, who has played 14 minutes per game, 14 games, 35% from the field? Yeah, I'm not really seeing it. What the reason is for dropping him from, like, he was just a 71. 71 was totally reasonable. Could have just left him there. I personally have him at like a 76. And like he probably should be somewhere in like the 74 range, I'm guessing. Like these two guys basically should swap ratings with Thomas and Cook, I think. And I think that's it for the team. Yeah, all right. 1, 2, 3, 4 rating updates for the Bulls. Not a crazy amount, but they don't have a ton of healthy players either. And obviously, no rating changes for DeRozan or Levine, which is kind of disappointing because both those guys have outplayed their rating thus far this year. None of the starters, aside from technically DeSunmo, changed in rating in this update, so kind of disappointing. Let's move to Cleveland. Let me close some windows. All right. Okay, nothing yet. Rondo goes up a point. Sure, I guess. He's playing better with the Cavs than he did with the Lakers, so I guess that's reasonable. Markkanen is out again. Looks like Markkanen actually does go up in rating, though, even though he got hurt like midway through the cycle, so I guess that's reasonable. Lamar Stevens got a +2. That's a little bit like... He was starting earlier in the year when Okoro was sidelined. He is not starting right now with Dean Wade picking up the slack for Markkanen right now. So the change is fine. It's just like 2 weeks late, I feel. That's fine. It's better for 2K to be like 2 weeks behind than like 2 months behind, right? That's what we're used to. +3 for Brandon Goodwin, as Rondo was sidelined, so Goodwin got a pretty reasonable opportunity, and he should have been better than a 69 to begin with. He had played well with like the Hawks. I think last year, while also Rajon Rondo was sidelined, so that's kind of his career niche at the moment. But yeah, it's a solid third string. Kevin Pangos, I don't know what he's doing in the NBA. If they were not going to use him, and the guy they signed to a 2-way contract's playing ahead of him. All right, 3 rating changes for the Cavs. And again, it looks like they're mostly just cleaning up like the end of the bench so far through 4 teams. All right, let's check out the Celtics. We're flying through this compared to the last couple. I guess the last 2 weeks ago, that was like a full month update, so it would make sense. But not a ton to talk about so far. All right. No changes to Tatum and Brown. Horford drops below an 80 for probably the first time in his career, is my guess. Let's check that out. He started off the season very well, but I think he more or less cooled off since then. In January, he's averaging 27 minutes per game, 7 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. And that's down from 32 minutes, 11 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. So definitely took a smaller role in January. And curious to see if they like raised up Grant Williams, who I assume was playing more. You know, he's the alternative at the power forward if you're not playing Horford. Of course, it doesn't make sense. Like, we're gonna drop out Horford 2 points, but then not touch Enes Kanter. Sure, whatever. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Enes Kanter drops a point, but he should be much lower than a 77 to begin with. The centers generally just kind of rate too high relative to their actual worth. Josh Richardson drops a point. Grant Williams drops a point. Okay. Okay. All right, so 4 Celtics drop in rating. Nobody went up. Let's check out Grant Williams real quick to see what inspired this. Since the last update, Grant Williams has shot 51% from the field, 52% from 3. He's averaged 8 points in 22 minutes, and he's gotten 2 starts in 7 games. Don't really see a good argument for why he dropped in rating, to be quite honest. Yeah, I don't know. He's been the 7th man, or like the 7th, 8th man on the team for much of the year. Josh Richardson, since the last update, 41% from the field, 41% from 3. I don't know. And then I guess we'll check out Kanter. Kanter, since the last update, 43% from the field, 1.7 points per game in 12 minutes of action. That's really bad for his standards because he doesn't bring anything besides scoring. Yeah, first of all, Kanter obviously should be much lower than his rating, but like I really struggle to. Basically, Kanter and Williams should swap overall ratings, and this would be acceptable. All right, let's move on to the Clippers. They are still without Paul George, who might shut it down for the year. Paul George probably about to miss the All-Star game this year due to his injury. Reggie Jackson goes up a point. Nick Batum goes up a point. Marcus Morris goes down a point. Okay, that's weird. Amir Coffey goes up 2 points. Well deserved. Bledsoe goes down a point. Hartenstein goes down a point. Okay. The Clippers are basically a collection of role players without their top two guys. Let's see what's the deal with each one of these guys who went up and I guess down. Yeah, 3 players up, 3 players down. I have that accounting right? Yeah, okay. All right, let's start with Reggie Jackson. All right, Reggie Jackson, since the last update, 17 points, 5 assists. But he shot 42% from the field and 28% from 3. The 42% from the field, that I think is actually an improvement. He's shooting 39 from the field on the year. So take that for what you will. I think he should have never really been as low as a 76 to begin with. I personally have him at a 78, so 77 is reasonable. Let's see. Nick Batum, who's been in and out of the lineup, but he's been really effective when he has played, and he should never have really dropped to begin with. He's having a great year. 49 from the field, 42 from 3, which I believe is his career high. And in this update cycle, he averaged 13 points per game, 5 rebounds, shot 55 from the field, 53 from 3. He had a 32-point game against the Pacers. So, yeah, it's good that he went up, but he should probably be like a 79, 80. I would certainly have him rated higher than like Zubats, I would say. Same thing for Marcus Morris. I'm not sure why he's going down. He's actually missed 3 of the last 5 games for personal reasons. He did shoot over 9 in the last game he played against the Knicks. But he's been solid besides that. He had a 21-point game against the Pacers. And I guess, like technically, so he only played 4 games in this update cycle. And he shot 36% from the field on 13 points per game. You know, so obviously that over 9 was pretty damaging overall to his numbers. So yeah, I guess you could make the argument that like based on that he should be dropping a point, but he should be dropping from like an 80 to a 79, not a 78 to a 77. Like they didn't do enough groundwork on him as a player. He's another one who probably should just be rated higher than Zubats. Amir Coffey has been one of the surprises of the season. He's on his 3rd year on a 2-way contract, but he's gotten a big opportunity. He's basically been the beneficiary of Paul George's injury. Has started the last 11 games for the team. And in this update, or this update cycle, I should say, he averaged 15 points per game, shot 48% from the field, 40% from 3. Those are the, that's pretty comparable to like Franz Wagner, other starting small forwards / shooting guards. So pretty reasonable. He's gonna be looking at an actual contract. First of all, the Clippers would be fools not to get him on a standard contract by the end of the year. Maybe his agent would feel otherwise. I think Coffey really should have been on a standard contract going into this season, and that might come back to bite them. I think. They opted to draft guys like. They've got Jay Scrubb also on a 2-way. They drafted Brandon Boston Jr., Keon Johnson. They brought in Justice Winslow during the offseason. They've obviously taken a liking to Terrence Mann. So, like, Coffey they very clearly made him an afterthought, but he's been one of their most important players this year. And, I'm curious to see what happens with him moving forward from here. Especially if he continues to start for the rest of the season, he could be looking at a very big pay bump. All right, let's look at Eric Bledsoe real quick. He got a -1. Bledsoe, he did not play well as a starter earlier in the year, but he's played a lot better off the bench. They were kind of forcing him as like a 2 guard, which again did not work with the Pelicans last year either. I would have started him at the. I personally would have started him at the 1 and used Reggie Jackson as a backup, like a 6-man type of player. But I guess they prefer to keep starting Reggie Jackson. And Bledsoe, in this update cycle, shot 38 from the field. 41% from 3, though. That's the most important number for him, as he's struggled with his shot much of the year. He's only 33% from 3 on the year. And obviously, that's been a point of weakness for him for much of his career. So the fact that he went down in rating, even though he shot better from 3, is kind of a little puzzling. I think he was totally fine at 77. But maybe they just didn't want him at that high because like they have a bunch of starters at 77. Bledsoe at a 77 is fine as long as you have these guys at, you know, the ratings they should have, like 78, 79. Or even at 80. And Hartenstein, he drops in rating, I guess because he's like splitting time with Serge Ibaka right now, but like production-wise, it really hasn't been close. Maybe since he returned from injury, he's been playing like ineffectively, but I kind of doubt it. He's also likewise been a big surprise for the team. He made the team out of training camp, and he's basically been as good, if not better, than Ivica Zubac throughout the year. He's shooting 61% from the field in this update cycle, averaged 7 points in 14 minutes per game. So the playing time has declined, but his effectiveness has not. He had a 16-point game against the Wizards and a 10-point game against the Sixers. Both of those obviously coming in limited minutes. So, yeah, I don't know. 23.4 PER on the year, 67 true shooting. Solid block rate and steal rate for a big man. Pretty good passer, too, also. So, yeah, I don't know. He's probably another player that's dropping solely because they couldn't figure out a way to get the starters appropriately rated. Yeah, pretty disappointing for the Clippers overall, how 2K's treating them this year. As their win-loss record, I think they're like 9th in the West, right? And they have the ratings of a team, you know, when you consider that their best 2 guys are sidelined. This is the team that they had most of the year. And they are 10th with a bunch of guys who were sub 80 overall. So they're very much they play team basketball, you know? That's more or less what I'm trying to get across. Like, they're not a bunch of bums. They are playing very well relative to their talent level. All right, so let's look at the Grizzlies. No change for John Morant. Steven Adams drops a point. Sure. Okay. Tyus Jones. Looks like this might be a light update for the Grizz. -1 for Xavier Tillman. Okay. +1 for Zaire Williams. He's been starting in the absence of Dylan Brooks. Looks like no other changes. Alright, yeah, really light update for the Grizz. So let's check in with Zaire Williams. On the year, averaging 7 points per game. 40% from the field, 26% from 3. Worth noting, so he is shooting 61% on 2s. So he just really hasn't been able to hit the 3, which makes up 60% of his field goal attempts. So that's more or less what's dragging his numbers down. He's not really ready to be a 3-and-D player as of yet, but pretty solid finisher at the very least. He's young. He's only 20 years old, so he'll have time to grow into that role. And in this update cycle where he's mostly just been starting for Brooks, 7 games, 39 from the field, 18% from 3, 9 points per game. So yeah, he's playing, but the 3-point shot is more or less what's holding him back. And I want to go back and I want to check the badges for a couple players, because that is something that I am keeping track of now during these updates, as John Morant, Desmond Bane, they both had badge updates in the last update. And yeah, I just want to make sure, like, if 2K is giving us a light...
Did they make an update today or no?
Yeah, the update was today. Yeah, let's backtrack a little bit and make sure everything's fine. Well, if they didn't give Embiid a badge update, I didn't give anybody a badge update. 37 for Middleton. Like, it's hold up. Whoa. Am I reading this right? 22 badges for Dante Divincenzo? They boosted his badge total? Unless I'm reading this wrong. I'm going to have to back out of the roster real quick and cross-reference. They boosted his badges? When they dropped him by 2 points? First of all, the fact that he's got like 22 badges to begin with, like, versus like Grayson Allen at 7, Connaughton at 9. You know, like...
Now this time I gotta see the Warriors and Suns, but I'll let you go at your own pace.
Okay, maybe that's just a typo on my end. Yeah, okay. That's just a typo on my end, but 22 badges for Divincenzo is ridiculous. Obviously, that's something that I will rectify in my roster. Now that I referenced it, I just haven't touched him because he'd been sidelined. But yeah, great example of like how out of whack the badges are and how infrequently they're updated, because they matter more than the attributes, to be quite honest, over the last 2 years. All right, let's look at the Bulls. Yeah, okay. Textbook case. DeMar DeRozan has as many fucking badges as Dante DiVincenzo. Like, say no fucking more. Oh my god. All right. Jeez. All right. What am I looking for? No badge updates for Dosunmo. Let me see, Matt Thomas. 5. Yeah, that's how many he had. All right, so it's not looking great for the 2K badge department. Don't think we have. We may not have any badge updates this week. Is what this is starting to look like. Yeah. All right. Yeah, no. Okay. Oh my god, their rosters are so bad. Alright, and I think we did them already, right? Alright, let's move on to Atlanta, now that I caught myself up. Yeah, no badge updates this week, it looks like. I'd be very surprised. Okay, Trey Young. Trey Young's an all-star, right? Yeah, he was voted an all-star. Well deserved. He's been the best point guard in the East this year. Any rating updates for this team? Bogdanovich came back from injury, right? Yeah, he played in the last game. Okay. Okay, Onyeka Okongwu goes up a point. He went up a point in the last update too. His plays, like, he might be the guy that allows them to trade Clint Capella. He's played really well so far, shooting 73% from the field. And obviously he's also known more for his defense rather than his offense. Yeah, in this update cycle, averaged 11 points per game, 6 rebounds in 24 minutes of action. 2 blocks per game in those 24 minutes. So yeah, pretty solid production overall from him. Is he the only rating update? I'll laugh. Oh no, +1 for Lou Williams, I guess. Yeah, I guess he should have a higher rating than Jalen Johnson. I don't know. TLC should have a higher rating than both of these guys since he actually like plays. I don't know. All right, pretty quiet update for the Hawks. Only 2 players. And I have mentioned that 4, 5, 6. Pretty quiet update overall. The only team with more than 5 rating updates so far is the Clippers. All right, let's go to the Heat, who generally they have a smaller rotation than most. So they typically don't have a lot of updates, but let's see. And actually, hold on, badges. Yeah, no changes. Okay. Tyler Hero went up a point. Okay, back to 83, which is his peak rating so far. Caleb Martin, ooh, all right, +1 for him. He's basically in the same conversation as Amir Coffey. The fact that he rates 2 points higher than Amir Coffey is a little suspect, given that Coffey's been starting and Martin is coming off the bench. He had been playing for Tyler Hero. I'm a little surprised to see Tyler Hero go up because, to my understanding, he had been missing games with like COVID. So let me actually check Tyler Hero real quick before looking at the rest of the team. He missed 3 games. Of course, that makes up half of the update. So in the 4 games that he did play, he averaged 21 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 33 minutes per game. 45 from the field, 48 from 3, 89 from the line. So, yeah, sure, bump him a point. Caleb Martin, on the other hand, 79 for a 2-way player. Oof. For this rating cycle, Martin shot 54 from the field, 41 from 3, 88 from the line. So, really solid shooting. Averaged 11 points in 24 minutes per game. 0 starts. So he's been okay. But once you get to 79, like we're talking starter level territory, this is a higher rating than most of the starters in the game. It's partially because 2K's bad at their job, but next Strus. See, like I would have Strus higher than Martin. Actually, I think Strus has had a slightly better year. He's got a higher rating than PJ Tucker, who's been phenomenal this year. Alright, just those 2 guys for the Heat. Alright, I guess. 1 badge for Caleb Martin, of course. Kind of tells you all you need to know. Only 2 players adjusted for the Heat. That's foolish. All right, Hornets. LaMelo Ball drops in rating again. Okay, let's check out his ratings for his production for the month of January now. All right, in January, LaMelo's averaged 19 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists. He shot 42% from the field, 30% from 3, 84% from the line. In December, he shot 49 from the field, 43 from 3, and 96 from the line. So yeah, his shooting's been worse. He averaged 21, 7, and 7 in December versus 19, 7, and 7 in January. Just the efficiency dropped off. But I don't know, he's still having an all-star year. And I kind of anticipate that he will make the team. I personally wouldn't have dropped him, but what do I know? PJ Washington drops a point. He went up in the last update. He's been 78 for pretty much his entire career. Nick Richards is still at 76. Did Nick Richards play at all in this update cycle? I'm curious after I fucking made him the star of last update cycle. Oh no, he played 5 games, averaged 3.5 minutes per game, averaged 1 point per game. But yeah, totally makes sense to have him 1 point underneath the starter. Totally. Jayla McDaniels, I think, well, hold on, I gotta check. Jayla McDaniels drops in rating, but I think he's been hurt. Or he must have just came back. Oh no, I've got it wrong. So he is hurt. 2K just doesn't have it listed. He missed the last 3 games. He sprained his ankle, I believe, against the Thunder on the 21st. So I have it right. 2K doesn't. He should be sidelined. As far as his rating, I mean, yeah, I don't know. You can't really talk on a team where they've got Nick Richards at a 76. Everybody else's rating is just like, by comparison, it's fucking shit. Alright, anybody else? No. Alright, so 3 rating changes for the Hornets. Ties their season low. No badge updates for anybody, right? Yeah, only 14 for Bridges. If they haven't adjusted Bridges' badge total, they're not going to adjust anybody else on the team. So let's move on to the Jazz. -1 for Mike Conley. -1 for Bogdanovich. -1 for Clarkson. -1 for Whiteside. +1 for Pascal. +2 for Trent Forrest. Okay. This is somehow the second biggest Jazz update of the year, with 6 players being edited. All right, let's look at Conley. Conley for this rating cycle: 42 from the field, 40 from 3, 95 from the line, 15 points, 5 assists. 30 minutes. It's fine.
Can we see the Warriors updates?
Nope. When we get to them. We made it all last week without anybody asking about the Warriors. Here we've gotten twice so far. So I guess everybody wants to see Andrew Wiggins after he made the All-Star starters. Let's see Bogey. Actually, let's see the Jazz. Hold on. The Jazz in total, let me take stock of where they're at. They're 30-19, fourth in the West. But they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're 2-9 in their last 11 games. So they've been free falling a little bit, and a big part of that has been Rudy Gobert has missed. He's finally missed time for them. He's missed 7 of the last 12 games, and they have won. 3, 4. They are 1-6 without him. He's basically their most important player. And they got killed in a lot of the games that they played without him. Boogie had an interesting cycle. He had 4 20-point games, but also a 1-for-9 game and a 3-for-13 game. He didn't shoot the ball particularly well. 39 from the field, 24 from 3. So, yeah, dropping him makes sense. Clarkson, I don't think we even need to check Clarkson to know that his shooting's been up and down. Well, check out Trent Forrest because his rating went up 2 points. Probably got his first meaningful action of the season, is my guess. Yeah, it looks like he's been in the rotation like the last 5 games. So for this rating cycle, he's averaged 16 minutes per game, 61 from the field, 25% from 3, basically 1 for 4 during that stretch. So, he shot 60% in actual minutes, sure. He had a 17-point game, which I presume is probably his career high. He didn't score double figures in any other game this year. Well, let me just verify that that is his career high. Yes, that's his career high. It's the only game in his career that he's scored in double figures in 68 games so far. So, sure, I guess. All right. Let's move on to the Kings. Oh, and obviously, yeah, no bad changes. I don't even know why I'm fucking checking. Okay, we're not off to a great start because this deck needed to be shuffled. Barnes should be a lot higher than an 80. Tristan Thompson finally drops. Much like Nick Richards, Enes Kanter, etc. Most of the backup centers rate way too high. Davis actually went up 2 points, even though he's hurt. Kind of disappointing because I guess he'd established himself in the rotation. Yeah, he'd started 4 games, had a 35-point game against the Pistons, 11-23 from the field, 7-13 from 3. I assume that was his career high. I'm sure it's certainly his season high. He also had a 22-point game against the Bucks. So during this cycle, he averaged 19 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. 49 from the field, 42 from 3, 81 from the line. Yeah, so pretty solid overall. Sure, +2 is fine. But got hurt, and it sounds like he's probably going to miss like a month or 2. Technically doesn't have a timetable yet, so that's kind of a guess. He could be out for the year for all I know. More Harkless being this low is stupid. Probably no other changes. Nemius Quetta, he goes up a point. He got an all-star vote from the players this year, and I think he actually, the trolls always pick somebody to vote for, like Taco Fall, etc. He actually got like 80-something thousand all-star votes from the fans, which was obviously curious. But hey, he goes up a point. I guess let's see if he did anything to actually deserve it. He played. He existed. He played 3 games in this cycle. Averaged 2.7 points in those 3 games. So I don't really know what the deal is. Okay. 3 rating edits for the Kings, but one of them's Queta, so that doesn't really count for very much. Alright, let's go to the Knicks. RJ Barrett's the highest rated player on the team now. Okay. The 2K's love affair with Barrett never ceases to amaze. I know that he's been hot of late. During this rating cycle, 21 points per game, 43 from the field, 38 from 3, only 65 from the line, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. For January overall, 23 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 36 minutes per game, 46 from the field, 44 from 3. He's held down by his production from the 2 months prior. In November, he shot 36 from the field, 29 from 3, averaged only 13 points, 6 rebounds. And then last month, he shot 41 from the field, 33 from 3, 18 from the field, 18 points per game, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. So, yeah, he had a good month, but we do have to count the bulk of the season also. And certainly Barrett's not the most consistent player. He could very easily drop back down. Well, what's crazy is, 2K never even dropped his rating. Even though, I just listed some garbage numbers, the lowest his rating has been this year is an 82. His floor was an 82 for all of December, going into the for a 6-week period. That's it. So the fact that he's an 83 now with this crazy production means that they never dropped him when they should have, when he was not playing at a high level. I don't necessarily have a problem with him having a rating on par with Julius Randle. Randle's more or less shit the bed as a star. Really been showing that last week was just like a fluke. May not make it past the deadline with the team. The team could have a lot of changes. I believe next in 2 weeks is the trade deadline, so that's going to be a very big update. A lot of people are probably going to be on the move this year, so I expect that that's going to be a major update for. It's probably one of the biggest roster updates of the year, I would say, is the trade deadline, at least in terms of fan interest, etc. So I will be back, of course, to break those changes down when they happen, and I'll probably have some other content to release as well. But getting back to this, Kemba Walker drops a point, sure. I think he's been sidelined for most of this update, so I mean, whatever. Well, he came back. Yeah, he played 4 of the last 5 games after missing 10 in a row. but he's not been effective. He had 19 points in his first game back, but then 5, 8, and 7 in the 3 games since. 38 from the field, 29 from 3, 10 points per game, 2 assists in 22 minutes in those 4 games played. So yeah, for sure, drop his rating. It's kind of like a disappointing ending for like Kemba's career. That's kind of the way that this looks. Like I doubt his NBA career lasts beyond this contract. He needs to be like a sixth man type of guy, like a Lou Williams or whatever. Because obviously, like offensively and like as bad as those offensive numbers were, his defense has been just as bad. So yeah, the role that he wants to play, I don't think he's going to be able to match that output. And the Knicks just can't get Derrick Rose back soon enough. They play very well with Derrick Rose, and not too well, not very good without him. The season basically got harpooned by Rose's injury. Actually, you know what? Let's actually check that out real quick. Am I just talking out of my ass here, or what's the team's win-loss record with Derrick Rose? They are 11-15 when Rose plays. And they are 12-11 when he does not play. Okay, so never mind. They're just bad overall. Irrespective, I think their point differential is, you know, not as bad with him, but it hasn't made that big of a difference. Really, the story of the team is that Randall has not regained the same luster that he had last year with the team. Cam Reddish, big pickup for the Knicks. They traded a first-round pick, and then Tom Thibodeau proceeded to not play him at all. He's played 2 games for the Knicks so far, totaling 15 minutes of action. Thibodeau's coaching is also a big problem here because he's just so reluctant to make changes, even in the face of, like, you know, what they're doing is not working. They need to switch up the starting lineup. The starter's been garbage all year. We're almost 50 games into the season, 49 games into the season, and we're still sticking with the same lineup. He doesn't give guys a chance. He buries young players, etc. So, like, the fact that they traded a first-round pick for a player to not use him is very suspect, and he should be getting criticized a lot more in the media than he currently is, in my opinion. And it's going to be interesting to see what the Knicks do at the deadline, because you would assume that for them to trade a first-round pick for a guy who they're not going to actually play, it means that they're probably going to be clearing spots for him. Like guys like Alec Burks, Evan Fournier could be on the move to open up some playing time for him. But like clearly, like this has been a thing with Thibs before, like dating back to Chicago. Like he clashes with management. You know, they picked up Cam Reddish because they wanted him to get to see the court, right? But it seems like they didn't consult with the coach at all in terms of like whether he'd actually be able to find a home for him in the rotation. And yeah, needless to say, as a local New Yorker, I and somebody who's had these feelings about Thibs for a while, like totally, you know, who could have seen this coming, really? IQ drops a point. Alec Burks, who I referenced a couple times already, he also drops a point. These guys have just been kind of riding out the string, waiting for the deadline, I think. Obi Toppin drops a point. Quentin Grimes goes up a point. He's the player that they've basically been playing over Cam Reddish. Like solid defender, and he's a 3-and-D guy, but like Cam Reddish has the potential to be a lot more than that. They might have like the next Paul George on their hands, and they're just not. Thibs, at the very least, is not willing to explore the studio space at all. Which would be one thing if they were winning games, but they are not. 6 rating edits for the Knicks. 2 guys up, 4 down. I think I spent enough time discussing these guys, even though I'd like to check guys like Quickly, Toppin, etc. I think I spent enough time on my soapbox with this team. So let's move on to the Lakers, who got Anthony Davis back from injury. I would so the Lakers have more or less gone back to starting LeBron at the 3. Now that Davis is back, 2K kind of has, they're treating Trevor Ariza as the 3 instead. They're also treating Stanley Johnson like they're kind of jumping through hoops a little bit. If you're making Stanley Johnson a 3, Taylor Horton Tucker for what it's like. The Lakers are a fucking mess. Don't get me wrong. Taylor Horton Tucker is basically the backup point guard on this team. Because Kendrick Nunn's been out the entire year. He's the guy who's coming in for Westbrook more often than not. Malik Monk has been this. He was starting at the 3 at one point. Bradley and Reeves basically split all the time at the 2. So Monk has actually been the backup 3. So we'll count like LeBron as like the starting 3, Monk as his backup, and then the 4 right now is Ariza Melo and Stanley Johnson. With Howard sometimes playing, sometimes not, and DeAndre Jordan just being completely out of the rotation. Although you wouldn't be able to tell that from like the ratings of these guys. Jesus. Horton Tucker drops in rating. The Lakers want to trade him, but they gave him such a big contract that it's going to be difficult to...
I wonder if Cade Cunningham went up.
My guess is he probably did. All right, Stanley Johnson went up. He went up 2 points, which makes some sense. No change for Ariza. No change for Bradley, who's been starting all year. All right, really light update for the Lakers. Only 2 players change in rating. Let me glance at the badges real quick. Yeah, no change. Oh, God. All right. No changes. Let's check out Tucker. He's really disappointed this year. Tucker this month, 10 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 45 from the field, 31 from 3. In December and November, he basically shot 38 and 39%. So he's cleaned up his efficiency. He was a functional NBA player this month. But it's funny because he was rated higher in those months than he is now. They're kind of like playing a little bit of... They're 2 months behind on this rating. They're playing a little bit of catch-up, but based on how he's actually been performing of late, you could have gone higher than a 75. Stanley Johnson, he's the big one because he just signed for the season. He's shooting 49% from the field on the year, 31 from 3. 49% from the field is easily his career high. He's a 38% shooter from the field for his career as a power forward. 38% as a power forward. That's the whole reason why he was a free agent to begin with. Because, yes, he's been a solid defender, but he's never really been able to contribute offensively. With the Lakers, that hasn't been as big of an issue. Part of it is the gravity that LeBron has. He just makes things easier for the role players around him. 46% of Stanley Johnson's threes have been from the corner. And he's converted on 38% of those. So certainly seems like that's going to be his offensive niche with the team. he have any big games? Yeah, he had a 15-point game against the Jazz and an 11-point game against the Magic. He started the last 2 games also. All right, let's move on. But no other changes for the team. Russell Westbrook still has 52 fucking badges. All right, let's go to the Magic. Cole Anthony drops in rating again. I guess he more or less cooled off from his early season explosion. Let's see. Ooh, yeah, in a big way. So in November and December, Cole Anthony averaged 21 points per game. In January, he's averaged 14. He's shot 34% from the field, 27% from 3, 76 from the line. He was in the 88 to 91% from the line the last 2 months. So certainly it seems like maybe he got hurt and something's affecting his shot. Because normally a player shooting 90% from the line doesn't like fall apart unless something's like bothering them. So that might be behind his slip. Franz Wagner drops in rating. I don't know about that. Jalen Suggs returned to the lineup, and he goes up a point. So let's check in with him. Yeah, it looks like he's been playing a lot better in his return from injury. He's shooting 48% from the field over the last 7 games. 15 points per game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. So this is the player that the Magic thought that they were getting when they drafted him this high. And I'm curious if maybe like that has had something to do with Cole Anthony's slip, or the fact that Cole Anthony's been playing worse has given Suggs like a greater opportunity to play on the ball, because it's been pretty clear from the first half of the year that like Suggs was not playing very well off the ball. He was shooting 34 from the field, 26 from 3 prior to his injury. Could also just be a case of like the rookie got to watch some tape and kind of acclimate to the NBA level. That's also a possibility. I haven't been able to check in with any Magic games of late, so I can't give you a precise reason. Those are just my feelings on what the numbers kind of tell me. All right, Mo Wagner jumps up 2 points. I don't even need to check his numbers. It's like he should have been this high in rating to begin with, especially if you're gonna fucking have like he was a 70 overall a month ago. For you to have him at a 70 and then bring up Nick Richards to a 76, Mo Wagner's still rated lower than Nick Richards. Like, get the fuck out of here, guys. Like, what are we doing? All right, looks like those are the only rating updates for the Magic. 2 players up, 2 players down. All right, let's go to Dallas. All right, Luka goes up a point. Let's investigate that. Luka, for the month of January, he's averaging. Okay, maybe that has something to do with it. All right, so he's averaging 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists. He's only shooting 41% from the field, 25 from 3. He shot 48% from the field in December, granted in 5 games due to, I think, COVID or injury or whatever. So for his rating to actually go up based on like the shooting is a little curious, but he only averaged 7 rebounds in December, and he averaged 10 rebounds in January. So it looks like, you know, especially for a guard to be grabbing like 3 more rebounds per game, you know, in the same amount of minutes, all things considered, like That is a gargantuan leap. And that's probably where the +1 comes from. That probably makes up the drop in his shooting. At least that's my guess. Otherwise, like, Luka's basically having the same year that he had last year, just he's been shooting the 3-ball worse. In this particular rating cycle, he averaged 21, 11, and 8.
Raptors.
He did have a triple double, 3 triple doubles actually during this rating cycle. Four, 5, 6, and he's had 6 on the year. It looks like. So sure, I guess. Maxi Kleber drops. Okay. Hardaway Jr.'s out. Might miss the rest of the year. Sterling Brown drops a point. Alright, so 3 rating changes for the Mavericks. Luka, and then 2 guys at the end of the bench. Well, I guess Kleber's not at the end of the bench. Kleber having a lower rating than fucking Nick Richards. I'm just saying. Yeah, not a fan. Not a fan. Have they played since Tim Hardaway got hurt? They did, and Jalen Brunson started. Okay. Ooh, and Maxi Kleber started over Dwight Powell in this game. Is that a recent change? No, he's been starting since January 2nd. Yeah, Powell's not the starter anymore, but he's still a 78, while Maxi Kleber is the starter, and he just dropped in rating. Okay. All right. Sure. Okay. Garbage. All right, next. Kind of got to power through, as I'm going to have to leave for work in a little under 2 hours, like an hour and a half. All right, Nets. Let's see. +1 for James Harden, which is fine. And curious that, like, Harden goes up a point. DeMar DeRozan hasn't moved. Zach LaVine hasn't moved. Curious, right? DeAndre Bembry's down a point. Sharp is up 2 points. He's been the starting center of late, with Claxton sidelined. I say Claxton, this is sidelined in quotation marks, because I don't think 2K has realized. Well, he played a game. He played against the Lakers, but otherwise, like, he missed the most recent game against the Nuggets. He missed all the other games this cycle. I guess, like, he should be active, because he did just play, but I have no doubt that he was probably healthy for the entire duration that he was actually sidelined for. Kessler Edwards also goes up in rating. He's basically been starting for Kevin Durant, which is insane to think about. Given that he's on a two-way deal. We've seen a couple two-way guys like really outperform their value, and I imagine that Edwards will get a standard contract before the end of the season. There's a couple veterans like Javon Carter, Paul Millsap, etc., who I don't anticipate are going to make it through the next month with the team. That would be my educated guess. But yeah, those are the three players who change in rating for the Nets. I guess let's check on Edwards and Sharp. Edwards, since he entered the starting lineup on January 12th, 9 points per game, 4 rebounds, 47% from the field, 37% from three, 83% from the line. Doesn't really get to the line, but still, 33 minutes per game. Like, he's not embarrassing himself. He's playing a substantial amount of minutes. I don't understand. I'm just going to use the Nick Richards is the template for the fucking season right now as far as the 2K roster goes. How are we going to have Nick Richards playing 3.5 minutes per game at a 76 and Kessler Edwards starting playing 33 minutes per game and he just went up to a 73? Like, something's very fucking out of whack with your rating formula if that is like a common thing that's happening. I'm just saying. All right, and Day'Ron Sharp, let's check him out too. He's started 8 games. In those games, 10 points per game, 8 rebounds, 56% from the field, 19 minutes per game. Turnovers and fouls are a bit of a problem. He's averaging 3.4 fouls in those 19 minutes. But otherwise, like, what the fuck is Nick Richards doing that's worth 3 points compared to Day'Ron Sharp? It would be great if 2K had some level of communication with its roster department, but they fucking hide. They're just a bunch of cowards who can't even. They're not even doing like roster dumps on like Reddit or anything, as far as I know this year. Like, they're just completely fine. They've given up. They've got a bunch of guys working on this shit and nobody to promote it. And it's really sad to watch. Since I've been tracking this for the duration of the season. Let's go to the Denver Nuggets. Gordon goes up in rating a point. That's good. He should never have been a 79 to begin with. This probably is still a little too low for him, but whatever. Ditto for Will Barton. He should be not this low. Monte Morris drops a point. Okay. Like, the non-Jokic starters have more or less been, like, shuffling the deck throughout the year. +1, -1 throughout for most of them. Jeff Green's actually a +2. This is his peak rating on the year. Check him out. He had a 26-point game against the Lakers, 20 points against the Pistons. For this rating cycle, 58% from the field, 54% from three, 14 points per game in 28 minutes. So yeah, definitely +2. If not, like, Nick, I hate to say Nick Richards again, but should be higher rated than that guy. Zeke goes up a point. Is Ignaji? Alright, looks like the role players on the Nuggets for the most part have been playing better. I say that as I say that. Looks like Facu Campazzo drops a point. Bryn Forbes they picked up from the Spurs. He's been solid. DeMarcus Cousins they gave a 10-day contract. I would anticipate he probably signs for the duration of the year. No other changes. All right, so 6 players updated for the Nuggets. 4 up, 2 down. All right, Indiana Pacers. Sabonis is healthy. Okay, let's see if that's actually true. I doubt it is. Nope, Sabonis has missed the last 4 games. He last played on the 19th. I guess 2K throwing a bone to Pacers fans, but they're not in a good spot right now with Caris LeVert, basically their only healthy starter. Lance Stevenson drops in rating. I guess his hot shooting to start the season did not continue. Let's see. Well, he had 14 points, 6 rebounds, and 10 assists in the most recent game. 10 assists was the second highest of the season for him. He had 17 points against the Phoenix Suns on 7 of 9 shooting. He had 5 of 10 in that double-double game that I just referenced before. And for the cycle, yeah, I guess he didn't shoot well in the other games. 43 from the field, 25 from 3, 7 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists in 16 minutes per game off the bench overall. Obviously, yeah, he did not really match the heights of his in his return to Indiana. He had 30 points on 12 of 19 shooting, followed it up with 16, 6, and 14, and then another 14-point game. So he cooled off a little bit. But in the last 3 games, he's kind of picked it up as well. I wouldn't see, Lance Stevenson, not exactly a beacon of consistency throughout his career. I expect his rating will probably go up and down a point for much of the season. Jeremy Lamb, -1. Justin Holiday, holy shit, got a +1, 74. He's been starting for like the last 2 years. 2K seems has finally noticed this is his high rating for like the last 2 years is a fucking 74. I like how generally by the time I get to like the Pacers and stuff, or just like, this is like team 18 or something that like I've talked about already, I get very salty at like this point. The stream/video is just like a collection of like, the incompetence just like builds up. And I get very sarcastic. But it also feels like the further I go, like the less good things I usually see. I feel like they do focus more on like the first 10 teams, and then things kind of derail once we get to the middle. That's just like my general feeling based on what I've observed. Isaiah Jackson +1. O'Shea Brissett -2. No fucking comment. Like, I gotta keep it moving. No fucking comment. I guess I should. Yeah. All right. Let's see O'Shea Brissett's -2. Let's break that down. For this rating cycle, he's shooting 33% from the field, 17% from 3, still average 17 and 5 in 21 minutes per game. They just like they miss the forest for the trees. Like it's because they only focus on like the shooting ratings and stuff, and they never touch defense. That's why a player like Justin Holiday or O'Shea Brissett will rate low for like criminally too long because they don't update defense. You know, like this is O'Shea Brissett's defensive grades. He's known for being a defensive player. So they're making tweaks to the offensive stuff every week, but like the defensive stuff, fucking good luck. All right, 3 players updated on the Pacers. I'm sorry, 4 players updated on the Pacers. Let's move on to the Pelicans. Still without Zion Williamson. It's about to be February. Do we have any changes for this team? Do we have any changes for this team? Okay. Whew. Wow, that almost was the first. We've the low has been there was a month where a team had like 1 player edited. I think it was the Spurs or the Wizards. Gary Clark -1, okay, saves the Pelicans. If there's ever a roster update where a team doesn't get a single rating change, it's maybe time to bring the pitchforks. All right, Jose Alvarado got a +5. So I think he's the big mover so far in this update. All right, Garrett Temple -1. There's another player. Like, why the fuck is Garrett Temple this low when he plays like 24 minutes per game? Unreal. All right, 3 rating updates for the Pelicans, but the big one is Jose Alvarado. Let's check him out. More or less stepped into the rotation since Kira Lewis got hurt. For this rating cycle, 7 points per game, 3 assists, 42% from the field, 21% from 3, 19 minutes per game. So it's not so much that Alvarado's played well, he's just existed. He's been a replacement level player. He hasn't been any worse than like Thomas Satoransky or whatever. And it just like goes to show that like no player in this game should have a rating lower than 70. If you're going to raise their rating anytime they get playing time, 70 should just be their floor. That way you don't have to fucking do this whenever they do get playing time. There was no reason for him to be a 67 if the second he steps on the court, you're bumping him up. Like, almost irrespective of his actual production. All right, let's move on to Detroit. Somebody asked if Cade Cunningham went up, or Cade, however we say it, and he did. He's at a +1, goes to an 80. Let's do some inventory with him. On the season, yeah, he's raised his PER by like a full point over the last like 2 weeks. 12.9 PER, 51 true shooting on 26 usage. Not super efficient, but he's a solid rebounder and distributor. Over the last 2 weeks.
2K Sports should just let you handle the ratings. I think you would do a better job.
They should, but they're not going to pay me what I want to do it. That's the other factor. I don't know what Mike gets, but I do better in my quote unquote career than yeah. I'll just say that. Like, I know some figures that I don't want to throw out there and like make you guys laugh, but like two Ks they're not really willing to put money behind the roster department, and that's why the the quality is obviously a little lacking. You get what you pay for. 20 points per game, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 50% from the field, 42% from 3, 86% from the line for Cunningham over the last 2 weeks. That's 7 games, 32 minutes per game. So for him to only get a +1 based on that production is a little, I guess he did have a really nightmare start to the season, but when you compare those numbers against like RJ Barrett, like there's no reason for Barrett to be an 83 and like Cunningham to be an 80, I would say. I think that's pretty reasonable. Anybody else get a rating change on this team? Corey Joseph. All right, +1 for Corey Joseph. Rodney Magruder goes up. Actually want to do inventory on him. He got traded, barely played for the team, got traded, and now he's like actually getting playing time right now. He had 19 points against the Warriors, hit 4 threes, 15 points against the Kings, hit 3 threes, 15 points against the Jazz, was 5 of 7 from 3. So yeah, on this rating cycle, 56 from the field, 54 from 3, 11 points per game, and 24 minutes per game. It's pretty reasonable. +1 for him. Could really have gone up to like a +2 or something.
Do you think a player's rating should be affected by if the team is winning or not?
Like, yes and no. Because like not all wins are created equal. If a 1-point loss against the Golden State Warriors is not the same as like a 20-point loss to the Detroit Pistons. There is quality to a team's play in their wins and losses. That is relevant, but it is a reasonable barometer for generally, if a team is playing well, if a team is winning, it means they're probably playing well, right? It's just like a loose thing that I kind of look at. Like earlier in the year, the Warriors and Suns both went undefeated for a rating cycle, and like the Warriors got a whole bunch of like recognition for it, and the Suns barely even got touched. So that was like just like one instance where there was some clear favoritism towards one particular team. That like if you were just like looking at the league as a whole, they would have seen, the Suns are also playing well too. Maybe we should give them some love. That's all. Killian Hayes is garbage, but he's not this bad. He starts. He plays for the He should have a higher rating than Saban Lee, his third string backup. Just saying. He's another player. Like, he tries on defense. But again, they're not updating defense for any of these players, so.
The league favors teams in larger markets, that's why.
Yes, and I mean, like, that's not, that's what the fans also favor. If you've got, it's like the goal, whenever I do these streams, usually the first thing people say is, show the Warriors, like, people want to see the more popular teams. They don't want to see the Detroit Pistons, for the most part. So 2K's, at the end of the day, they got to cater to the crowd a little bit, but they could balance things out a little better, I think. Even when they were doing that, like, they still weren't even doing a good job of it, because they had Gary Payton II, that's like a 72 overall, even in the update where they updated like 8 guys on the Warriors. So like, All right, Raptors. Fred VanVleet's probably going to get named to the All-Star team this year, as the Raptors have been on a roll of late. Siakam's also been playing well. No rating updates for either of those players. Ditto for OG. Scotty Barnes goes down a point. All right.
Wiggins is an all-star starter. Should his rating increase because of this?
No. You know, it's interesting. I crunched this yesterday. I don't have a problem necessarily with Andrew Wiggins as an all-star. He just shouldn't, like, very clearly should not have been a starter. And there's a couple reasons why he ended up as a starter. But, like, if Kawhi Leonard and Paul George were healthy this year, like, Wiggins wouldn't be in the conversation. He wouldn't have gotten voted. Like, Kawhi would have gotten the votes. So that was, like, the first hole in it. But, like, similarly, you know how, like, how DeMar DeRozan was listed as a guard in the voting? That's because the Bulls submitted him as a guard. And we all know that, like, DeMar DeRozan's been a small forward for the last 3 years. The Bulls don't even play him as a guard. They played Levine and Lonzo Ball, like, very clearly as their starting backcourt. So they flat out lied to get him listed as a guard in the voting, and he was named to the All-Stars as a guard. And the reason they do that, teams do that sometimes to kind of circumvent the voting process, because obviously DeRozan was never going to get voted to the team as a forward competing with LeBron, with Giannis, Durant, and Joel Embiid. You know, that much was obvious. So they made a calculated decision and put him on the All-Star ballot as a guard. What the Dallas Mavericks should have done is made Luka Doncic a forward. Because if they made Luka a forward, Wiggins never would have gotten the vote. It would have gone to Luka. But part of the reason why the Mavericks listed Luka as a guard is you would think that Curry and Luka would have been the vote getters as the guards. Nobody saw Ja Morant, like, exploding onto the scene. He's the other guy that was voted to the All-Star team. So that was, like, you know, you wouldn't have thought that Ja Morant was going to make the All-Star team and during the season. So that kind of played into why Luka was on the ballot as a guard. But realistically, if Luka, you can make a better argument for Luka as a forward than you can for DeMar DeRozan as a guard, to be perfectly honest. Like, you know, that's essentially how Wiggins ended up making the team, is like those two specific factors, and obviously the fan, you know, the market, the fan vote, etc. The players were still given, like, Wiggins a reasonable amount of love, and even when you crunch the numbers, like, there's a case to be made for him being a reserve this year, which I guess I'll get into a little later once we actually get to the team. Let's just finish off Toronto. We have like 10 more teams, I think, before we get to Golden State, or before we finish. But I basically, I can do 10 teams in like an hour. Where am I at? Okay, Scotty Barnes is the only Raptor that changed in rating. Watanabe just went down to the G League, so he drops a point. I imagine he's just not been playing well of late. Anybody else? Doesn't look like it. Okay, only 2 rating changes for the Toronto Raptors after they had 9 in the last update. Pretty disappointing. Let's do inventory on Barnes real quick, since he drops for, I believe, the first time this season. He's been in and out of the lineup with injuries. He played 6 of the last 8 games. He shot 42 from the field, 22 from 3, 15 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. So yeah, slight decline in his production, sure. Whatever. I disagree with him being, like, again, RJ Barrett's an 83, and Barnes has had a better year than him overall, so We can also look at OG. You know, like once you break down like by position some of these guys, like things become a little clearer with how shit some of the ratings are. But let's go to the Houston Rockets. Where is Eric Gordon? 78. +1 for Kevin Porter Jr. Goes back to the rating he had at the start of the year. And tell me that's the only Rocket that gets a rating change. That's the only Rocket that gets a rating change. Okay. Wow. I guess let's do some inventory on Kevin Porter Jr. All right, for the month of January, 14 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, 42 from the field, 39 from 3. He shot 34 from the field in November, 37 from the field in December. So he's at least resumed being an NBA player. 42% from the field is his high for a month. Fine. Let's actually check out Jalen Green. On the year, he's shooting 37 from the field, 29 from 3, 14 points per game. Let's see how he did this month. This month, 13 points per game, 33 from the field, 24 from 3. So yeah, he's kind of getting worse. Totally reasonable for KPJ to have a higher rating than him. Let's go to the Spurs. Jakob Poeltl continues to be criminally underrated. Hasn't gotten touched the entire year. Or I think he got updated 2-3 months ago. He got a +1 in the first ratings update back on November 4th, and that was it. Looks like the Vassell probably went up. No, Vassell was already a 77. Thaddeus Young dropped. That's what happened. Okay. Thaddeus Young was a 77, and he goes down a point. He's obviously been out of the rotation for much of the year. Not really related to his overall ability. He's just waiting for a trade or buyout. Kennedy Diop drops 2 points. I'm just kind of curious. Like, that just shows that his boost last week was a fluke. He went from a 72 to a 76 in the last roster update, and now he drops to a 74. So I guess whatever playing time he had more or less dried up. He's in the COVID protocols at the moment, so he's missed the last 2 games, but shot 37% over the last 2 weeks, 20% from 3, 5.5 points. So what did he do in the 2 weeks prior, or I guess in the month prior to that, to really okay. So he had a 30-point game against the Lakers on 11 of 11 from the field. So that kind of like very clearly the best game of his career. His previous high before that was 13. So yeah, it makes sense for him to get like such a large boost and for him to be trickling down at this rate. Like clearly that one game bolstered his numbers a lot, and it's been kind of downhill since then. As far as the rest of the team, Jacqueline Dale gets his first update of the year. He's been a 68 for a while, even though he's been playing. His numbers are pretty good. And again, if you're going to have fucking Nick Richards as a 76, if you compare Jacqueline Dale's numbers, they're basically identical. I'm just saying. Also looks like Josh Primo drops a point after getting a +2 in the last update. him back down to earth. All right, 3 rating updates for the Spurs, and all of them are guys at the end of the bench. They just refuse to touch the starters like Doug McDermott and Jakob Poeltl. Which is disappointing. Phoenix Suns. All right, Chris Paul finally goes back to a 90. He's a +2. He started the season at a 90, and then they proceeded to drop him. Continue to drop him, even though his production never really merited it. Really, like, if they're going to be overrating Devin Booker, you got to overrate Chris Paul too, right? Campaign's a +1, even though he's sidelined for like the next 2 weeks. And yeah, like I said, they really seem to focus on like those first 10 teams, because we've had 3 players on the Pelicans, 2 on the Pistons, 2 on the Raptors, 1 on the Rockets, 3 on the Spurs, 2 on the Suns. Like, they kind of fall apart every week once we get to the middle. All right, let's do OKC. SGA goes up a point. Let's check in on him. I sometimes forget that he's an NBA player because, you know, OKC. For this month, he's been averaging 24, 5, and 7, 44 from the field, 27 from 3. He's shooting it better than he did in the previous month, where he only shot 24 from 3. He only shot 39 from the field in November. So I guess, but he hasn't really knocked my socks off this year. Kenrich Williams and Mike Muscala are legitimately like top 5 players on this team, but the Thunder intentionally don't play them because they're trying to lose games. Poku is like the most overrated player. Like, the fact that he's a 75, he's in the G League right now. Darius Bazley's been starting over him for the last 2 years. Did also Jeremiah Robinson Earl has likewise been a starter. Robinson Earl actually drops a point in rating, but Poku, yeah. And spoiler alert, he has not been any better this season. Like, Bazley's not great, but he's not that bad either. Like, there's a big difference between 40% and 34%. Any other, whoops, what did I just do? Any other changes on this team? Where's Favors? Favors goes down a point. Yeah, nothing really going on with OKC either. 1 player up, 2 down. Oh no, Darius Bazley also went up 1 point. Yeah, before it was Poku 75, Bazley 73, despite like the considerable gap in their effectiveness. So at least they're moving sort of in the right direction. Like, just drop him down to like a 70, along with Nick Richards. 4 players updated for the Thunder. Minnesota. Ooh, they've been playing well. Towns should make the All-Star game this year. That's my guess. Anthony Edwards is good, but probably shouldn't be an 85. Like, Andrew Wiggins is better than Anthony Edwards. I'm just going to throw that out there. Like, I would have like RJ Barrett at a 81 instead of an 83, and then like Anthony Edwards at an 83 instead of an 85. Pat Beverly -1. Okay. Jalen Nowell +1. Playing a little bit better of late. That's probably it for the team. Two players? I read that correct? 2 players updated for the Wolves. Yeah, this is a pretty lazy update by 2K. Like, not even impact players got changed for the most part. It's really just been like these middle of the pack guys. Dame Lillard's inexplicably somehow a 90. CJ McCollum drops a point. Which is his first rating drop of the year. I guess he shot poorly in the last few games. Let's see. Since returning from injury, CJ has averaged 20 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Assists are probably a little up relative to his normal production as Dame has been out. He shot 47 from the field, 45 from 3. Only 70 from the line, but like I kind of struggle to see why he would drop in rating. See, it don't make sense. Let's actually just look. CJ McCollum averaging 24 and 4 on 43-40. Anthony Edwards averaging 23, 5 and 4, but doing it on 45 and 37 shooting. I guess like CJ's 43% from the field is his lowest in a couple years. He was usually at 46%. He's 45% for his career. So yeah, I guess he struggled a little bit. He's also 70% from the line, so like probably his shooting overall is being affected. Not that free throw rate or free throw percentage like affects the overall rating a ton. Looks like we can't see they actually did update his free throw rating, so it's a 70, and like that's probably going to go up. It's an 82% free throw shooter for his career. A little bit of small sample size going on. He's only taken 60 free throws on the year. Doesn't get to the line like he used to. He's never really big on getting to the line, but this is his career low free throw rate. So this might take a little longer to like course correct. But yeah, I don't know. Looking at the rest of the team, Nurk probably should be the highest rated player on the team. I'd be, or at least tied with CJ. I'd be okay with both of the 84 at the very least. Simons goes up to an 80. It's his first time as an 80, so big news for him. He started the year as a 75. He is extension eligible, I believe. And it'll be curious to see what the Blazers do heading into the deadline, because Norm Powell as a starting small forward just hasn't really worked. They just got too much of a glut. CJ's been a lifer with the Blazers, but it might be time to move on. He's not really worth his contract, and it seems like Simons is ready to step in. They can't have him backing up Dame playing like 12 minutes a game forever. And I don't think that you can play CJ as a 3, certainly. Like, it's tough enough that you got Powell doing it. Yeah, so I'm curious to see what this team looks like in 2 weeks. Dennis Smith Jr. gets a +1. He's another guy who's kind of been rehabbing his value, establishing himself as at least a backup level player this season. Although I don't know if I agree with him having a higher rating than fucking Robert Covington. Who again is rated 2 points lower than Nick Richards. Tony Snell drops a point. All right, looks like we have a little more changes, I guess, for the Blazers and the other teams. Well, I say that, but we're only up to 3 rating edits so far. +2 for CJ Ellaby. We'll check him out. Obviously, with all the guard injuries, playing time is, they've been able to focus a little more on their youth than they otherwise have previously. For this rating cycle, though, Ellaby, 6 points per game, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 6 games, 39 from the field, 27 from 3, 19 minutes per game. So, again, similar to like players like Matt Thomas, etc., Jose Alvarado, the boost to his rating isn't necessarily reflective of his actual production, just like he's in the rotation. That's pretty much it. Which means he probably should have been a 72 to begin with. Trendon Watford also gets a +2. Probably a similar conversation. We'll do inventory on him. He's been getting some playing time. Cody Zeller's out. Zaire Nance is out. They've had some injuries. But over the last 2 weeks, he's played 8 games, 55% from the field, 5 points, 4 rebounds, also 82% from the line. So, yeah, he's been pretty solid in his opportunities. Totally reasonable for him to get a +2. Anybody else? And this year, he got hurt. I think he's out for the year. He had been starting to play well. 57 plus 19 is what? 76? So no rating change for him in this cycle. So 5 Blazers got rating changes here, which is actually a lot for what 2K's done this cycle, it seems. Rating update number 6. All right, Golden State. Curry has been awful and did not get his rating changed. Like, awful being a relative term. He's been in a shooting slump. Part of this is because of the defensive attention that he's been getting. Like, the Warriors haven't been any worse offensively despite Curry getting, shooting poorly, because all the other guys on the team are eating as a result because they're more open. And teams haven't changed the way that they're defending Curry, even despite the slump. They'd be fools to. That's how you get him going, right? But over the last 7 games for this rating cycle, 41% from the field, 34% from 3, 86% from the line, 23 points per game, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. Still pretty reasonable. That's solid production overall, even when you ignore the shooting numbers. But it's not 96 overall. Like Joel Embiid is playing out of his fucking mind to get bumped up to a 96. Averaging like 33 points per game on a 42 usage. Crazy numbers. Nikola Jokic has been doing this shit all season. Curry did it for like a month. Since then, he's kind of fallen off, but his rating has not. In January, 13 games, 21 points per game, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. His assists are up relative to what they've been. Draymond has been out, so he's had to play, take on a higher playmaking role. But only shooting 38%, 31% from 3 for this month. Kind of same story in December, 40 from the field, 37 from 3. It's November where where the Warriors were winning games that kind of set the tone for how people view Curry. 47 from the field, 42 from 3, 93 from the line. but clearly since November, he's more or less fallen off, and he played 14 games in November. He's played 25 games since. That makes up the bulk of his production this year, and, you know, it would be nice if 2K at least gave some amount of attention to that. 21.6 PER on the year. That would be his lowest. Right now, he's having the worst season of his career since he became an all-star level player. He became an all-star in 2014. They won the title in 2015. So he's basically playing at the level that he did in his third and fourth season with the Golden State Warriors. So yeah, I'm totally in favor of, if he starts shooting well again, bump his rating up, bring him back to a 96. But there's no reason for him to be a 96 while Trey Young is like a 91. That's fucking absurd. So this gets an F from me. Klay Thompson drops a point. Up until last game, he had been playing. He'd been shooting very poorly. They're still giving him a little bit of credit. On the year, he's averaging 16 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. I'm not even sure that last night's game even made it into this rating update, because generally they tend to not. But shooting 41 from the field, 37 from 3. The last time he played in 2019, he shot 47 from the field and 40 from 3. So an average 22 points a game versus the 16. Obviously, like, the per game stuff doesn't really matter a ton because he played 34 minutes a game then. He's only playing 23 minutes a game now. Really, it's the shooting efficiency that I'm looking for. And he's dropped off. Part of that is his shot selection sucks. He's just been jacking it up as soon as he touches the ball a lot of the time. He's posting a career-high usage rate, 32% usage. He is making up for lost time. Just to give you an idea, 32 usage, he would be top 10 in usage rate once he qualifies for it. Season stats, he's only played 181 minutes so far on the year. So he is jacking him up, but they are not going in. Career low true shooting, 53, versus a career high usage. So certainly his rating should be dropping. I personally have him at like an 83 overall at the moment. 86 is giving him way too much credit. He is not the second best player on the Warriors right now. That falls to either Wiggins or Draymond. If anything, Klay's been like kind of a negative when he's been on the court, but they're just slightly not a positive, I would say. All right, here's Wiggins, the star of yesterday, voted to the All-Star team. When you look at like other small forwards across the Western Conference, there really isn't any competition, especially if we're counting like LeBron as a power forward. I guess we'll jump. Yeah, let's do that now, actually. And look at all the West small forwards. Okay, so we got Kawhi and Paul George, who are both sidelined. That's the problem. 88 and then 95. Dylan Brooks is 81. He's sidelined, but also worse than Wiggins. I think that's pretty unarguable. Wiggins is better than Bogey. I would say his value is kind of on par with Harrison Barnes, but the Warriors are winning and the Kings are not. Again, personally, I have LeBron at the 3. When the team is healthy, LeBron is a 3. They've chosen to have Stanley Johnson and Trevor Ariza as the 3s instead, as I've discussed before. But yeah, and again, it doesn't really matter because LeBron was voted to the team anyway. So he's not somebody that was taking away a spot. Finney Smith. Porzingis. Yeah, you can make an argument for Porzingis. Certainly he's going to be one of the fringe. He might be one of the snubs. Also, why does 2K have him at center? Oh, maybe because Maxi's starting now? Then just change Maxi to center. Maxi to center. Ugh. Obviously, Michael Porter Jr. He would have been a good All-Star candidate if he'd been able to stay healthy this year. But again, did not. So, like, who else is there? Aaron Gordon? Ingram, like... Ingram's been okay, but again, the Pelicans aren't winning. Zion Williamson also sidelined, so they don't vote based on like small forward, power forward, center, etc. You know, it's just like front court. So I guess also worth noting, Jokic was the other front court player selected. So we got Jokic, we got LeBron. Like, we got no issues there, but even looking at the like power forward and center, Kings, garbage. Obviously Gobert, the media voted him to be the third starter. The fans, obviously, and players, to an extent, felt differently. Yeah, so just with the injuries to Kawhi, Paul George, Zion, it's pretty thin up front. Rockets have been ass. Suns again, everybody's the guard. DeAndre Ayton. Ayton and Wiggins are kind of in the same conversation, but Wiggins plays a much more premium position, whereas like Ayton's like the fifth best center in the West, probably. I don't even know why I'm looking at this team. Towns obviously is going to make the team as a reserve, I think. Norman Powell, like, yeah, clearly worse than Wiggins. And Draymond Green's currently sidelined by an injury. That might end up keeping him out of the game, just like the timing of that. So yeah, I personally don't have an issue with Wiggins making the team. He just shouldn't have been, you know, Gobert or whoever we mentioned before probably should have been the starter. But yeah, no rating for Wiggins, which is no rating change for Wiggins. So in that sense, like, what was the point of waiting if you weren't going to, like, when I say waiting, like, they released this update on Friday rather than Thursday. What was the point of delaying the roster update if you weren't going to do anything for the All-Star selections? That's what I'm a little, like, lost on. Aside from maybe they just want the timing to be on Fridays, the deadline's on Thursdays, so the next roster update's going to be the day after. It would kind of get lost in the shuffle, like, I guess maybe this is something that they do each year, because I think they have delayed it previously. I don't know if they go back to normal throughout the year or if they stick with the Friday release, or if we're going to eventually go back to Thursday, like after the trade deadline. We'll see. Of course, 2K is not very communication is not their forte. We'll put it that way. As far as the rest of the Warriors, Jordan Poole goes down in rating. Iguodala goes down in rating. He hasn't really been playing, so, like, sure, I guess, whatever. Kuminga goes up, as he has been playing, with Draymond and Dre both sidelined. Toscano, I guess he's been playing, but not playing well if he's dropping. And that's it. Or did Belly go down? No, Belly's still a 79. Did Looney change? No. Okay, so a couple Golden State players go down. And Jonathan Kuminga goes up. Let's check out Kuminga while we're here. He had a 22-point game against Dallas, 8 for 9 from the field, 4 for 4 from 3. He had 25 points against the Bulls on 10 of 12 shooting, 19 points against the Wolves, 12-10 against the Pistons. So for this cycle, 57 from the field, 46 from 3, 12 points per game, 5 rebounds, 20 minutes per game. Pretty solid overall. Definitely worth a +1. You know, now he's pretty soon he'll be Nick Richards tier. Iguodala, I already know that he barely played. I don't understand why they do the things they do. Let's check out Jordan Poole, who's, you know, kind of erratic. He had 22 points against the Bulls, 20 versus the Timberwolves, and then followed that up with 5 points against the Pistons and Pacers, and then had 20 points against the Rockets and Jazz, followed by 17 and then 19 in the next two. So yeah, not a beacon of consistency, but he was pretty effective overall. Like, that's 6 good games out of 8 for this rating cycle. 44 from the field, 41 from 3, 96 from the line, 16 points per game, 4 assists. I'm not really, you know, what was it? He's playing pretty well, you know, all things considered, with the demotion with Klay Thompson returning from injury. Not really, very clearly locked in as like their 6th man. I don't get the need for a rating change for him to be now rated a point below fucking Nemanja Bjelica and Otto Porter. Yeah, kind of lackluster update for the Warriors. And let's finish off with the Wizards, who had the low last rating cycle of only 2 players updated. So let's see if they got a little more attention this week. So far, no. Hashimura went down a point. KCP still won't start for the team or be in the rotation if you start a season, because he's rated lower than Denny Avdia. Bertans drops a point. Okay. 2 rating updates again for the Washington Wizards. There's a -1 for Bertans and Hashimura. That's fucking pathetic. They got December 16th, they had 3 rating changes. A month passed and they got 2 rating changes. And then 2 more weeks passed and they got 2 rating changes. Like, they straight up are not, they don't care about this team. Sad. Alright, that's going to wrap things up. I got to get ready to leave for work soon. Thanks, guys, for watching. And keep an eye out for the trade deadline roster update in the next 2 weeks. I am going to try to release more roster content between now and then, as I've got a little bit more free time coming up relative to what I've had the last couple. But thanks, guys, for watching, and keep on gaming. Peace.